Howdy gamers, old gamer guy here. If you watch my channel, you might have seen I recently made a video showing the start of this game called Hell Warders. It's sort of a combination between an action RPG and a tower defense game. And in that other video I showed, I think, the first 3 waves of the game. It's basically the tutorial level called the Courtyard. So I thought I would make a video showing the rest of the castle. And the castle is basically Act 1 of the game. So the courtyard is included in that. And then here we have the ballroom, which is kind of a small symmetrical level. Only one entrance, but the enemies can split off left and right. And this is the last wave actually of this level. And I guess I should also point out that I am replaying this level after unlocking some other units. So the first time you play this level, you might not have, in fact, you would not have all of these defensive units that I have here. So this is the ballroom. And here we have the library. It's a little bit more of a complex level. You can see I'm playing with one of the 3 characters. There are 3 characters you can play with, and this guy is kind of an old king with a big hammer. And this is the library, and there are 3 entrances to this level, but then they all converge, and you end up in this one winding path up these stairs to the top. Yeah, pretty cool. I enjoy this king character. I'm not sure he's the best character, but I played with the knight at first. I forget his name, but he looks like a knight out of the Dark Souls games. Armor and a sword and a shield. And then this old king, I enjoy this character. And then there's another character that I'll show you here in a second that has 2 kind of slow firing shotguns. I think he's probably the best overall character to play with. But either way, any points that you spend, like you can switch characters before you play a level, and any points that you spend on attributes can be respect at any time with no cost, so you can kind of play around with all of them and see which character you enjoy. So this is the library. And then you move on to the gardens, which is another symmetrical level. It's a bit bigger, I think, than the other ones. There are 2 entrances, but they're kind of on the same wall. And the enemies will split off left and right depending on which door they come through. And by this point in the game, you have access to the ballista. You can see those big arrows flying in a straight line every once in a while. They're slow firing, but they will go through enemies and damage the enemies behind, so that's a good thing. So you have access to them. You have the pikemen and the archers, of course. The fire adepts are casting these area of effect fireball spells, which are good. And then you have the conjurers, which they do a little bit of damage, but their main function is to slow enemies down. It took me a little while to catch on to how important the conjurers were, because they weren't really doing a lot of damage, but they're relatively cheap, and I think they are definitely a good unit to make use of in the game. So this is the gardens. And last but certainly not least, you have the chapel. This is the final level in Act 1. It's probably the biggest level out of all the levels in Act 1. It has 4 entrances, which are fairly spread out, so you kind of have to move around. And this is the 3rd character I was talking about that has the 2 shotguns or blunderbusses or whatever they are. They're slow firing, but he also has an ability that lets him fire quickly while the ability is active. And then he has another ability that fires out this right there, that big explosion. I think what he's doing is throwing like a potion that explodes or something. But this guy's probably the best of the 3 characters, at least on certain levels where you have to move around a lot and you know, that big explosion is certainly useful. So I don't know, you probably won't be able to see it in this video, but like I mentioned, in some of these levels here, I'm using defensive units that you won't necessarily have the first time you play the level. And in this case, that is the healer. Some enemies will just make a beeline to the Nexus, which is that glowy thing that we're defending. But some enemies will veer off and attack your defensive units, and those little orange floating things there to the left, I don't know if you can see them very well. There's some more over on this side, but they will definitely shoot at your fire adepts and your other ranged attackers. So it's good to have a healer standing behind them to keep them alive. And then I've seen some enemies that ignore everything except you. They just come straight at you. But my Nexus is, I think it's undamaged at this point. And to unlock the most useful things in the game, which are the artifacts, you have to get through the entire level with your Nexus having its health, I think, 90% or above. So it can be hit a little bit, but not much. But when you do finally unlock those artifacts, they're pretty powerful. At first you can only use one at a time. I'm at a point where I can use two at a time. But there's a thing like a suit of armor, which if you have that equipped, then your pikemen have like 20% more health, which is a pretty good jump there. There are mithril arrows, which increase the damage of your archers by 15%. There's, I think it's called the Ring of Time or something like that, that will increase the time that enemies are slowed down by your conjurers. And then I forget what it is, but it's something that increases the healing power of the healers. It basically, when they heal somebody, it will also increase the defense unit's maximum health for like 8 or 10 seconds. I forget which, but all pretty useful stuff. And like I said, your Nexus has to be 90% health or better at the end, which is, the first level I did that no problem, but even starting on the second level, I defeated it, but my Nexus was damaged to the point where I only had like, I forget what they're called. There are these little symbols that you'll see, and there are 5 of them. I'll point them out when it comes up on the screen here. But there are 5 of them at the end of each level, and if your Nexus is 90% or above health, then you get all 5. And if you get less than 90%, you might have like only 4 of the 5 that are lit up at the end. There you can see there's a boss battle coming here. I'm going around and upgrading some of these characters with my points. I have in this level you have 32 maximum that you can put out on the screen. It varies by level. It doesn't necessarily go up in the next level. It might be back down to like 26 or 28. But I'm maxed out on my units, so I can go around and use my points to upgrade them. So that's what I'm doing here. But back to those little symbols, adding up those symbols is what unlocks the units apparently as you go through the game. I thought it was defeating a level, but it's not. It's the number of those little symbols that you've earned. And once you get maximum symbols on a level, you can't earn any more on that level. So even if you can't get the maximum Nexus bonus at the end, it's good to go ahead and press on to the next level and see if you can get any on that level, and maybe unlock another unit, and then come back and replay a level, which is what I'm doing here actually.
Stop. I hear a voice.
So on a normal level, the enemies, there's a finite number of enemies in each wave, and then when you get to the end of all the waves, you win the level. And there's not a boss on every level, but in these boss phases, the enemies will just keep pouring through those openings until the boss is dead. So even if you focus on the boss yourself, which is what I'm doing here, it's possible for the enemies to get through and damage your nexus enough to where you're defeated, which is really frustrating. I'm gonna die here. This guy's gonna kill me once, but the setup I have, my deployment of my defensive units is good enough that I think I end up, well, I definitely end up more than 90% on the nexus. I forget if I'm, oh, there I go. They might get through and damage it a little bit, but it's not enough to disqualify me from the artifact that I'm about to earn here. And obviously your units will also attack him if he gets close enough to him, but when he's out here in this circle, he's really not close enough. Okay, they damaged the nexus a little bit right there, but just barely. And I'm about to take him out. And there we go. The voice acting in this game is pretty old school, meaning that it's not really all that good in comparison to most modern games these days. But like I said, this is a $15 game, so what do you expect? I don't technically have to be going around picking these points up, I don't think, because you start the next level with a set number of points. Okay, so there's the victory. And here's where it counts up those little symbols. They're like little magic chalices, I guess, almost. Beacons, that's what they are. 5 beacons is 100%. So there I have unlocked the Leviathan's Hammer artifact. And you can see I went ahead and that's my last beacon that I can get on Act 1. So then I can go to the dungeons. And you get another 5 levels and more beacons and artifacts. And I just unlocked a crossbowman, which I haven't been able to use that. But you can see I played the vault. And then the cages. At this point, I hadn't defeated the cages, but I have since I made this video, or since I recorded this clip. But anyway, I'll go ahead and end this video here. One more thing, actually. In between levels, I'll show you this. You can switch your character if you wish. And then here you have your attributes. I've been putting everything on my defensive unit damage, and it seems to be working out. I don't know what the best method would be. And then here we have the artifacts, and I have 5 available to me, but I can only equip 2 at a time. There's the armor, the arrows, the ring, and then we have this is a very useful one, the Tome of Fire, which increases the fire rate of those fire adepts. And then Leviathan's Hammer increases the projectile distance for the ballistas. So another very good one. Depending on the level, layout, and if you have a clear shot down a pathway. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and end this video here. It's gone on long enough. I do like this game. Like I said, $15, even not on sale. But if you can find it on sale, I definitely recommend it. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this, and Thanks for watching.